You know, there's moments like this which were kind of embarrassing where I somehow managed to hit a tree branch and have my mortar turret bounce back right at me. You know, yeah, those are kind of distinct moments that I remember because it happens, and every time I use a mortar turret from now on, I always think like, okay, is there any trees in the way that are going to come out and get me? There's just stuff like that makes the game fun and interesting, and it's good to look back on some of these things and just laugh at yourself. There's other moments where, you come out of a checkpoint with your buddy and see just a huge group of people standing around looking at each other, measuring their EPs, just waiting for something to happen, but nobody's doing anything. And you just decide, you're going to take the opportunity to just throw every explosive that you have at them at the same time and just kind of see what happens. Just stir the pot. And, it doesn't matter if you, win a battle or, die miserably. I mean, the thing is just to have fun. And that's really the key to Division PvP. Alright guys, so I got a bit of a different type of video here for you today. This is kind of like the top 10 moments of Division PvP for me, or at least, some of the moments that I have that I remember very distinctly because, they have an impact on me, or at least, I constantly think about them and, think back to how good the Division could be or how good the Division was. So whether you like or hate Division PvP, I hope you watch this video and just have, some moments of enjoyment with me, looking back on some of these great moments in the Division. Starting with number 10. Get off my cover. Now this is a pretty simple video, it was actually pretty funny to me, but what happened in this clip was my team ended up pushing all the way back to the spawn point of the enemy and causing their spawn point to switch behind me. I luckily realized this in time and ended up, running towards my allies, but I did forget that I left my mobile cover sitting in the back. I kind of thought it was funny that I ended up canceling my cover, leaving him, standing there in the middle of the hallway and getting shot. That was it was a moment that I found pretty funny. Number 9, I love my AK. Now this is one of those moments that I just like because it's just straight up clean PvP. And it emphasizes why I love the AK especially so much. There are definitely times when having a higher damage per magazine is much more beneficial, and that was kind of this case. In 2 full magazines, I ended up taking down a shield, 3 players, and then another player after he got revived. Had I been using a different weapon, this outcome would have probably been drastically different. Number 8, it's a trap. Now, by the end of the Division 1's life, a lot of the skills had just been nerfed into the ground. One of the only ways that you could get kills as a skill build was to kind of just multi-tap them with skills at the exact same time, or grenades at the exact same time as your skills. Thankfully, I was able to actually do enough damage with my gun to take out the last remaining guy. Number 7, don't camp the DZ. Now, if you've gone into the DZ, you've probably inevitably experienced somebody camping a checkpoint, throwing the fire grenades at the doorway, leaving fire turrets, something so that as soon as you get out, you're basically just going to be cooked. But shockingly enough to me, as you can see from me just firing pretty much at nothing, I didn't actually expect that my bomb drone would take out all 4 of them at the exact same time. It was a pretty hilarious moment for me, and it was actually just kind of a nice state of shock, but also getting 21 DZ levels in one go was pretty amazing. Number 6, low health melee. Now this one was just another good clean DPS battle in skirmish. Now the build that I was actually using was a 5-piece alpha bridge with the Warlord exotic AK. Again, I love those AKs. But besides for actually some poor movement on my part here, and actually being lucky enough to get away, survive, the thing I really liked about that actually just kind of like surprised me with this fight was at the very end where I just ran out of bullets in my magazine and managed to have him low enough that I actually took him out with a punch. So that was pretty awesome. Number 5, auto sawed-off. Now, when 1.7 came out, that was actually the start of the revealing of the classified gear sets, and one of the first ones that came out was actually Lone Star. With that, what would happen is after you got down to like 50% of your ammo capacity in your magazine, it could trigger a proc that would reload your magazine as soon as it was empty and give you increased damage and rate of fire and that kind of stuff. And one of the first things that I did with it was I actually paired it with a shield build because I really wanted to see how hard, I could use the sawed-off shotgun with this. Now, my intention with this fight was actually just to keep the rogues procced as rogue. Obviously, I got there, found they were pretty much almost off their timers because they had, ran into an underground area, just kind of hiding, waiting for their timers to end. I was hoping that if I kept them distracted long enough, kept their timers active long enough, that I could, potentially get reinforcements. Somebody else would come along and help me to take out these rogues. After about a minute, I realized that, there was no one else arriving, no one was coming to help, and I was pretty much on my own. I figured that if I could at least take out one, then it would be some sort of a victory for me. So, I kind of rushed in there after I downed one, took him out, I expected to die, but my ultimate kicked in, gave me enough time to, heal up again and run back to cover. For some reason, they didn't try to follow me. That was kind of, they were just trying to, hide in that corner, prevent anyone from, jumping them from behind or something. But that just gave me the opportunity to keep coming out and attacking them over and over again. So by the time I dropped the second guy, I think the third guy finally realized that, okay, he's got to come after me because there's, nothing else for him to do. But this ended up turning into a, 2 shield build battle. He was obviously using D3 and I was using this high skill haste, kind of amalgamation Lone Star build. But I am still kind of angry that, the NPCs interfered here at the end, that, I didn't end up getting the kill. He ended up, pretty much losing his shield after that nice barrage of like 6 or 8 shotgun shells, because of the proc and the reloading. And he ended up obviously running away, getting off his timer, because, I was distracted with obviously fire and the shield keep popping out and everything like that. So yeah, I am still upset that this last one got away, because otherwise, it was just a good fight, downing 2 of the rogues and the other one getting away. It was a good fight. Number 4, Crimea River. Now the reason it's named this is because a lot of the times when I'm making build videos or I'm, showcasing something or I'm trying to test out something, the footage that makes it into the videos ends up being seen by the people that were in the video. And of course, some people get very offended by it. Some people, want to try to defend themselves for, whatever assumed slight that I'm trying to present on them. But the one guy ended up accusing me in the video of lying to, the people that were watching, saying that it wasn't this, wasn't that good, that, I didn't include the footage of them killing me. And, the straight up truth of the matter is, one, it was a 1v4. So in my book, if I drop one of you in a 1v4, that's a win for me, right? It does, if you kill a single player in a 4-man group, like that's not a win, right? If I kill one of you, that's a win. If I kill 2 of you, that's a bigger win. If I kill 3 of you, that's, a pretty good win. And if I drop all 4 of you, that trumps any death that I might have had from you before that. And the second thing is, I don't always use the same build, so I switched to this build because I wanted to test it out, because I knew there were 4 guys that were actually, fighting me. But at the end, I don't really put these things in videos to try to call people out. I'm not trying to, mock people or make fun of people. I'm just showing you what happened, right? If people want to make their own videos and be like, look, I downed this guy, do it. I mean, it's a video. Like, get over it. You were in it. Don't make a big deal of it. Otherwise, I'm going to remember it even more. Number 3, epic comeback. Now, honestly, this match got off to a bad start. At one point, we were pretty much 1 life to 10. It was not looking so good for us. But eventually, we did catch back up. The team ended up going down. It was just 2 of us left against, the 4 and an extra life. But my teammate ended up deciding that he wanted to push forward after they ended up getting their defensive boost, and pretty much, I knew that was a bad idea. I wasn't going to go with it. I didn't want to leave them alone, but at the same time, I knew that if I tried to fight them at that point, that would be death. But thanks to their initial rush, which, didn't go extremely well, they, kind of botched it all. They kind of stayed a little bit too close together, and I was able to pretty much down 3 of them right off the bat. Then, of course, their spawn ended up flipping, so, the second guy that was actually coming back actually came out of that spawn, which kind of actually happened perfectly because he ended up running right through one of my mortars without me even realizing that he was there. So he pretty much made my job extremely easy. Number 2, first build video. Now this is actually from my first build video on YouTube, because before that I just kind of covered some Division information, talking about what I think they should do, what I think, I hope to see them do, and what I think they could have done to improve the different games, stuff like that, just kind of, going off of ideas. But this one actually was kind of the result of me hating what they ended up doing to skills, especially when the game went live, because they just kind of neutered everything. They ruined skills, and there was a huge backlash about this, and it forced them to kind of reevaluate and change some things. But in my determination to find a build that could wreck enemies without relying on the gun every single time, I basically built this monster, which had something like 115% explosive damage. I could cook off grenades, hold them before I threw them. And if I got a kill with a grenade, then I got a grenade back, which was a huge, advantage in PvP when you only have 2 grenades. So I could pretty much use this as a sticky bomb. In fact, I called it like my Bomberman build or something like that. If you're familiar with SNES days with a good old Bomberman. But the fact that I could just, toss these grenades everywhere and basically just insta down players, it was it was an insane build, and I'm pretty sure this was part of the reason why they nerfed grenades so hard in the later patches. But I loved this build for the amount of time that I was actually able to use it. Number 1, I miss the real DZ. Now this takes me back. Now, if you missed out on, some of the early days of Division 1, it's terrible thing. The amount of changes and the stuff that they did to the game kind of, I'm not saying they ruined it, but a lot of the heart and soul from the Division disappeared when they, revisited, changed things, and, modified stuff, and Rogue 2.0, and, skill nerfs and build nerfs, and, they took away a lot of the magic. But one of the things I really loved about Division 1 back in the day was just the fact of surviving, not running around, not running away, not, scamming your timers off, not going to a freaking terminal and just deactivating Rogue, actually showing everyone that you are there, you're going to fight, and them, basically forcing them to either ignore you or come and kill you. And that was pretty much how I liked to be Rogue, right? I didn't want to survive because I ran away. I liked surviving because I would just take on anyone who was willing to fight. And that's pretty much the way that I had fun. That was what I found interesting. That's what I enjoyed. This type of battle where you're just fighting to survive, it's a mess, it's chaotic, people are trying to come and get you, and I think there was like 9 or 10 players there trying to kill us. It was fun. These are the moments of the Division that made the Division fun. Now, you could say like, well, it was cheese, it was blah, blah, blah. You didn't have to go and fight us. You could just ignore us, and, that would be the end of it. This was a perfect time for players to go and farm and do their, extractions or whatnot. And that's kind of the reason that I think the Division 2 and, a lot of these things in the Division kind of degraded, I guess is a way to say it. Like a lot of the fun disappeared because, the things that distracted the rogues, that took the rogues away from actual players, trying to avoid them, they disappeared. And it basically just became all rogue all the time, just kind of lame stupidity. Alright, I can't really end this video without an honorable mention, and that's just to the entire level 14 DZ. Now, it doesn't matter if this was at the beginning of the Division 1 or at the end of Division 1, with the small exception of somewhere in the middle. The level 14 DZ was just by far the best PvP experience in the Division, hands down. And the reason for this was because it actually had a limited selection on what you could choose. There was some finite resources there early on that you couldn't just unlock everything. You didn't have all the talents because obviously that gear didn't exist. It was basically a pretty fair, pretty even version of the game, right? You made choices, and sometimes your choices were very successful for you, sometimes they weren't. Like you could choose to have a lot of extra medkits. You could choose to have, some very good specific enhanced skills, right? You can unlock some of the mods for your skills. You could unlock some of your ultimate abilities. You could, unlock different things. My personal favorite was to unlock the contamination mask. And because of that, I could go into some of the, underground areas or whatnot that other players may not have been able to go into. And this gave me the chance to escape rogues, or it gave me the chance to, kind of protect myself when I was rogue, avoid, players that were chasing me, that kind of thing. Now, of course, I'm not going to, lie. There were some issues with the level 14 DZ, especially the problems that came out after the Underground. All right, so when they ended up releasing Underground, there became, a known cheese where you could take your level 14 character down there and end up getting high-end, weapons and gear. And this kind of murdered the DZ, at least for level 14 players, because, having some guys in blue and some purples fighting against, full gold builds, it didn't go well. But they ended up nerfing that. And so all of those golds reverted to purples. But then they ended up doing another stupid thing a few months later, where they ended up removing all purple gear from the the DZ lootable pool, right? So you could no longer get purple gear from the DZ, but all the people that still had purple gear kept it. So basically anyone that was new would, the best they would be able to get is blue gear, and anyone who actually, kept a 14 character would be kitted out in purple. Now, obviously, I'm using purple. I have it because that's what I had. I'm not going to get rid of my gear because you can't get it anymore. I mean, it's not fair to me because I've, earned it. But at the same time, I tried to find ways that I could actually make it fun for myself and for others. I didn't just go there, cheese it, and, just clear out the DZ and just laugh at everyone and call them scrubs. No, what I would try to do is I would try to basically just get a big, kind of like King of the Hill going where, people that did have the level 14 gear, like you can see there's another guy that's running around. He's actually clearing out the NPCs during this clip. He had a turn where he would just fight all these guys. And then once he went down, I would, end up going rogue and, fighting these same guys. And you think well, that's unfair. That's cheese. Look, it's not, because obviously these people are lower level. They're just doing it because they're having fun. They kept coming out. They kept engaging us. They wanted to do this. And the other, there was a benefit to them because they would get a lot of DZ experience, because obviously, killing a manhunt early on gives you a bunch of DZ levels. So they can, level up their DZ, get access to a lot of the vendor items quicker, because, killing a manhunt gave you a lot more experience than, farming AI for 30, 40 minutes. Plus, it would also just give me a chance to just drop the Dark Zone keys, drop currency, which I didn't need, stuff like that. Help these newer players get stuff. And, it was just fun. I knew that any one of these guys wouldn't stand a chance against me, but you just keep, piling on more and more of them, eventually, something's going to break, and it's, just kind of, it's just a fun time. You don't have to do it. You don't have to sit there and fight. And if you didn't fight, if you weren't involved in it, I didn't go out and, hunt you down and try to just wreck your time in the DZ, because that wasn't the point. The point was for people to have fun and continue to have fun. And look, there's plenty of good memories in the DZ, even after, a lot of these cheese things happened, I would farm a bunch of this gear that, a lot of these players didn't have access to. And then I would just, let them kill me, right? I would drop a whole bunch of loot on the ground and they could take it. I would help people clear these, landmarks that they probably wouldn't be able to clear by themselves because they were too low of a level. And obviously the DZ scaling was a lot higher than a lot of them were used to in PvE. So, there was a lot of give and take in this DZ, and if you were, responsible and just actually, responsible in the way that you actually maintained, a good balance between people having fun and, just not being a complete dick, it was enjoyable. Of course, there were plenty of people that I ran into who were level 14s, who had this purple gear still, and so it was pretty much, I could see who was abusing it and who was just being, a turd, who was camping checkpoints and just slaughtering people and just not letting anyone have fun. And of course, that would be kind of my turn to be a DZ police and, help clear up the DZ and keep people from just, being turds, But, overall, this kind of goes into showing you what I loved about the DZ the most. The fact that, there was some structure to it, but you could really organize it in any way to have fun how you want it, right? Whether it would be one man versus, a whole group of anyone who wanted to challenge me, obviously with the overpowered gear, or whether it was me carrying some people through content that they probably couldn't get through, or, you know, just giving them items and gear and currency and stuff like that that, you know, I didn't need anymore. I mean, there was good to be had in the 14DZ. And again, you know, just the fact that you couldn't choose or unlock every single thing as a level 14 character, the fact that you didn't have all the greatest talents, all of the greatest gear, you know, it made you pick and choose what you wanted and kind of what build you kind of like locked yourself into. And that was fun because, again, if you chose to have lots of med kits and have, you know, higher damage and better talents and stuff like that, that in a, you know, 1 versus 1 fight gave you the edge, you know, that's a good choice. But there was other people like me who chose the mask that allowed us to get away. You know, we maybe in a straight up fight we didn't have, you know, the best advantages, but we could use what we did have to our advantage that the other person couldn't get at that point. You know, and that kind of, that decisiveness kind of made it fun, and that's probably one of the biggest reasons why I went through, you know, maybe a dozen or so level 14 characters just to kind of try out different things and different setups. And it was one of the more enjoyable times and one of the more enjoyable periods in the division. But anyway, thank you guys for looking back at some of this stuff with me. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.